back.
Do we have the chip counts, Tony?
I have them. I'll bring them in to you.
PJ's bringing them to you right now.
All right.
Ready?
That's the best I've seen Suited Dan look in 4 years.
Clock is running.
And we shall call him the Black Bastard. I think we can say that on the internet.
All right.
3 times, but that's it.
All right. Oops, I missed one. All right. 100.
We have
Ed is all in.
23.
Marco with 25,300. Bobby with 9,000. Mark with 8,900. Dan
Everybody
with
folds?
8,700. And Ed with 2,300. Marco's got white to chip lead.
Marco at just about 3-1 over every player. So he's got almost half the chips in play currently.
He can afford to take some chances, which he hasn't been shy about yet.
Yes, sir, you are.
Sudan calls 800.
Marco contemplating a play here.
Marco calls 800. Bobby folds. Mark checks his option. Bobby laughs.
And Mark flops the king.
Checks over to Marco.
Marco with bottom pair.
Marco bets 800.
Just a min bet here.
See what Mark does with top pair here.
21 now.
Mark raises to 2,100. Marco shows a 7 and folds. Button moves. Ed is in the big blind. Suited Dan to act first.
Marco lets it go.
Folds over to Mark.
I think Ed might get a walk here. Yep.
Ed gets a walk. Button moves. Suited Dan in the big blind. Marco to act first. You know you're going to call anyway, Marco. Marco and Bobby fold.
See if Mark tries to steal here. No.
No, battle of the blinds here, and we have Suited Dan with my favorite hand, although he has in fact lost the mask. He and Dan walks.
King 6 gives the walk.
I don't want to play against the bully.
Bobby B. Million to act first.
I mean, if you get a shove. Have you shoved your phone? Queen jack suited. If I had a bigger kicker, but I was
Suited Dan with queens, Ed with an ace king. We may get a big pot going here.
I think Ed on the button may shove.
He's short stacked. Mark may raise with the ace rag.
Raised to 2100 by Mark.
Ed moves all in. We're definitely going to see a call.
Ed is all in.
See a
Suited Dan
push
is all in.
Immediately from Suited Dan.
Ed's in some pretty big trouble with all these aces going. He's only got 4 outs.
That is all in for 3,500.
I think this is where Mark has to give up his 2,000 chips that he put into the pot and walk away.
Classic.
Suited chose queens.
Well,
Ed chose ace king.
You would think it's a classic race. but
Mark's
all those
hand
aces
did not
gone.
fold.
That was so nasty.
If we could fold Mark's hand, please.
Took them all out and heads up on me.
Perfect. We have 2 hearts on the flop, a 5 on the turn,
Wrong paint.
and a jack on the river to eliminate Ed in 5th place.
I will break my silence because I want to take a good game at it.
I was wondering the thing about it. Well played, well played.
Mark Kutrafel at act first.
And Ed, welcome to the broadcast booth.
Got my own speaker this
Oh yeah, we
microphone.
that way we don't all have to share. Woo! Kind of a rough night for you.
Well, it started out okay, and then that second round, I just my little pocket pairs were not doing so well.
You made several good folds, though.
Did I?
Yeah. Almost every time you were behind.
Yeah.
Marco will
I
give you back rub if you
had
want.
a feeling I was behind on most of those. I just looked at the way people are playing, the way they're betting. I was like, I can't push them off their hands because these guys don't want to. They don't know how to get folded when they, somebody comes over the top unless you got a huge monster stack, which I didn't have.
Right.
So
Suited Dan to act first.
I had a couple of choices. I could have called one hand against Mark when he went all in. He had ace king, and I think I had pocket eights at the time. I really thought about calling him, but
Over to Marco on the button.
min raised him coming into the hand, so I'm like going, what the? Marco's just he's a maniac out there. So,
Yeah.
You can't get a read on him for anything.
Yeah, we were talking
Bobby
about
all
that
in?
earlier.
So
Takes it
I
down.
thought about that hand with Mark. I wasn't gonna just call him. I was either gonna push or fold, which I ended up folding.
With the pocket 8s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think he had pocket 10s, actually.
Did it, that hand? Okay. Well, then I guess I'll get it.
Yeah, it was.
The beautiful PJ Price cutting across the camera.
So we've asked everybody so far that's come in here, what was it like playing with Marco tonight?
You mean that first hour or so?
Yeah.
I just tuned him out personally. I played with him last year, so he just was a little more
Raised to
a little more
2600 by
boisterous
Marco.
this year than today than he has been in the past. So if I'd have been sitting right next to him, I might have been a little more aggravated. But sitting as far away as I was,
You were in a good spot to just
Yeah.
not listen to him.
Yep, just tuned him out. But he wasn't really bothered that much because that's just him.
I mean, today's play, he's actually made some very good plays today at the right time. So I think the boisterousness just kind of added to the effect.
First act is Bobby.
Sure, that's definitely part of his game plan.
He's been getting some cards and then making some moves.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time he's hitting just about everything,
Is he?
it seems like, yeah.
Yeah, that figures. It's one of those nights. Well, I guess I'd have to say my best hand tonight was against Dan when I was trying to steal the blinds
Right.
and he's trying to defend with 6-3. I don't know what he's thinking there. But
Correct. I think that doubled you up for the chip lead prior to our break.
yeah, it did. And then it went downhill from there. Straight downhill. I don't think I raked a pot other than the one where I was all in short stack there and nobody called. But
Mark to act
other
first.
than that, yeah, it just
Yeah, Dan's what they call a defender. He'll defend his big blind with a lot of different hands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know that. I just, the whole night, every time I was on a button, it folded for me. I raised, and every time he played against me. Every time.
He does not like to give them up easy.
So I think if I ever get in that position again against him, I won't just do the standard raise. I think I'll go a little
Marco
heavier.
calls from the small blind.
Most of the time, I actually had a hand against him. The one time I had garbage, and I got lucky, and we both had the same garbage. So.
I was amazed it wasn't a chop pot.
Oh, yeah, I was too. I already figured it was.
Both players check.
Oh,
Bobby with the gut shot.
yeah, I was
If he
thinking.
gets at 6, he might get a bet out of Marco.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Unless you-
Marco reaching for chips. Bobby folds.
Or did he just check it down? I didn't see.
Well played, me.
Well, another not so good finish for me.
Yeah, middle of the pack's not bad.
There's still a lot of games left in the season. I believe there's 8 games after this, so you definitely have a decent shot to come back.
Yeah, I think I can do okay against these guys. I just,
I thought you played really well tonight. A lot better than you did the first 2 weeks.
Suited hand
I really
first.
did.
yeah. I was trying to mix up my game a little bit there and played some hands. I'm sure some people are saying, why is he raising with king queen and the next hand he folds ace 9? But it just depends on the position.
Oh,
and,
exactly.
where everybody's at in the hand. So
Bobby all in. And a call by Mark.
you don't always
yeah,
get queen.
I thought
Ace
the same.
9
I think
versus
he's
ace
gonna
3.
Get called there a lot.
Come on, 3 ball, Mark.
Yeah. Well,
Bobby asking for a 3 here.
is Bobby all in?
Yes, he
Bobby
is.
moved all in with the ace 3.
Okay.
3 on the flop.
Oh,
Calls for the 3 ball.
that's not right.
9 plays.
Ace and the 9
Oh, wow.
does play to
Ace is
eliminate
in.
Bobby.
Wow.
The game's on
Aces
the
and
river.
queens with a 9.
The river got him. He was doing good.
Never anything you want to see, however.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to vacate my
Well
seat for
played,
the next
Bob.
victim. So,
Down to 3 players.
good to see you guys again.
You too. Good luck.
Yep. We'll see you next
Next week?
Yep.
All right. And then there were 3. Mark made a pretty good comeback tonight. He was short stacked pretty early.
Marco to act first.
Welcome, Bobby.
Marco, you have a dirty stack. In the blacks. Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty much an ABC hand.
Yeah, there's not much we can do in that situation. Either way it goes.
Yeah,
I think
blind
that's-
versus blind, you got an ace, you short stacked, you move in.
No.
Well, all right, you're next. What'd you think of
Raised to
Marco
1600 by suited Dan.
Entertaining. To
Call by Mark.
tonight? Entertaining.
I mean, he was crazy for a while there, but I don't mind it. I think it was good action.
Both players check.
Dan flops the world here.
Dan flops the world. I bet you he jammed.
No.
He's
it-
done
it-
that
it
several
went-
times tonight.
I did
Actually,
notice a
check,
trend
check.
tonight.
Yeah.
He's been
Both
overbetting
players
the
check.
pot quite a bit, so I'm thinking like.
There was only one time I didn't mind it. He had the wheel, and Marco said he had a pair, and he made a huge bet at the pot.
Yeah.
I think Dan knows he won this hand. He has to bet here, though, to try and get some money.
Yeah.
I think he should have got value on the flop.
2800 bet by suited Dan.
29.
But
2900 bet by suited Dan.
Absolutely
here.
nothing.
He's not gonna play that.
Mark missed his draw.
he's like, look,
so-
I had a draw. You could have charged me for it.
The thing about Marco tonight, though,
I was hoping, oh, please get that.
he's been hitting, and then he's been having big hands, too.
That's a dangerous mix.
Yeah, exactly.
When you have somebody that's outgoing at the table and playing
Yeah.
lots of hands and acting crazy, it's
Action on
great
Mark.
playing hands. That's kind of like what I do at the shoe. I have a crazy image and it gets you paid off. But,
Oh, absolutely.
However, you as my pick for the season is not going so hot, being eliminated in 4th this week, and I don't think
Bet
your place
2200 by
last
Mark.
week was
Dan
all
folds.
that great
yeah.
either.
Well, I came out the gun getting first, and then
Well,
last week, I mean I guess that's my style of play though. Sometimes I'm pretty aggressive, so it's either I get out early or I'll run deep,
or in this case, semi-deep.
or just in the middle.
Marco calls 2200.
You know, so many options.
Mark raises him.
Last week I was coming off a few bad sessions in cash, which I think made me made me feel a little more aggressive than I usually am.
Marco checks top pair.
I really like the check here against Mark because he's going to see bet
Mark bet 1,600.
almost every time.
Should definitely just call here.
Yeah, but Mark will shut it down unless he picks up a draw, maybe. But I still think he'd shut it down.
Marco calls 1,600.
I mean, I don't know the stack sizes, but he could always try to represent. If he
I don't
thinks that
think he
Marco
will.
has a smaller.
Yeah, I don't think he
Yeah.
will. Mark will usually shut it down here once he's called.
But you think too that because he's against Marco that it's going to affect his decision a little bit.
That very well could. But Marco has not called very often
Mark checks.
without the best hand.
Marco checks again.
I kind of like the check. I mean, he's going to let him bluff if he
Yeah.
has any bluffs. Here's a bluff. False.
All in by
What?
Wow.
Mark.
Lets it go.
Marco folds.
Very
I-
afraid of his kicker. Wow.
Cannot.
That's
Couldn't
one of
believe
the
he folded there.
That's one of the downsides of solo playing the hand. 'Cause sometimes you get a situation on the river where
First stack is suited Dan.
you're gonna
It's a
have to
good
make the
bet.
wrong one.
Mark's got heart. I got to give him that. There's the
But
only
if,
hand
if
that
Marco
wins.
just took a second to think about it, I mean, what hand is he actually going to represent on the river there to shove? Like, that 5 he competed.
Yeah, that he's not
He
going to
picked
bet
up
the
a set of
turn
fives,
with.
maybe?
Yeah, that he's not betting the turn
Yeah, it
with.
was-
Exactly.
It's kind
Marco with
Ouch.
the aces now. See, this has happened.
Suited Dan with a queen 6.
Well, see, I think Marco's plan the last hand was to not knock Mark out so that he can pick up aces this hand.
That may be.
I'm pretty sure.
Marco calls the big blind.
Mark flops a queen here or a 10. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Let's see if Marco does.
Uh-oh.
Marco bets 800.
I'm pretty sure the stack size
I
is
will
good.
say
Pretty
he's,
sure.
he's played this very well.
Did Mark raise pre-flop
No,
and
it
then
was
Marco
just-
called?
Yeah, no. Marco just smoothed.
Yeah, that's. Well
Mark
played.
calls.
Wow.
I feel like there's no way it's not getting all in now.
Marco checks.
Marco with a beautiful check on the turn.
Mark checks.
Wow.
Just hopefully he doesn't fold it on the river now.
Check on the river.
Nice
Oh,
play.
check.
I cannot believe Mark didn't bet there.
I think after he checks behind on the turn, you got to bet the river.
Yeah,
At least something to get a little bit.
I'm real surprised Mark didn't bet the river when he checked it again.
That was a kind of scared play
That's
on
about
both ends.
That's about the third hand Mark's lost in a minute.
Yeah.
I get my 2. My 10. They're still 4
He had 10 with an ace earlier against Marco's boat.
I did
Yeah.
not.
First stack is
I
Marco.
couldn't believe they didn't get it in.
Oh yeah, I remember that hand. That's pretty outrageous. I was wondering that myself. Like, where's the pot at?
Yeah.
Was that the 1 minute mark? No, that was the gong. Okay. But I didn't know when you grabbed that. Oh, it's 6? It's 4. It's 4 and 8 this hand, 5, 10 next. Okay. It's when he picks up the deck. Oh. When I move the button. Or move the button. Whatever.
Hold the button with chip lead.
Mark calls the small blind.
In short-handed games, I always like to raise on the button.
Yeah, that's my. I actually.
Mark
I
checks.
was mad at myself when I was in there and I
Suited Dan
pulled the
bets
button at
800.
one time. I was like, how am I ever folding? But I did have 2 short stacks and big blinds. I didn't want to get called.
I think especially in tournament play when you get down to short-handed, with or without a chip lead, a button raise should come at
Yeah.
least 75% of the time.
Definitely.
Um,
That's just that's how you stay afloat with the blinds
Absolutely.
rising. And
Button is on Mark. Mark decks first.
no one with much of anything here.
Suited Dan calls.
Blinds are 5 and 1,000.
Marco checks his option.
Dan limping his small.
He does that a lot.
Well, he knows he's going to pick up 2 pair.
Marco bets
So
1,000.
I think that's one of his reasons.
Suited Dan
for doing it.
re-raises to 3,000. 2,000 for Marco to call.
Suited Dan flops top
How much did Dan
and
bet here?
bottom. He raised 2,000 on top of Marco's bet.
Mm. In blind versus blind, I kind of like to just flat if somebody c-bets. You don't want to raise out of hand just like Marco has. I mean, you want him to try to barrel on the turn. Or maybe a 7 hits on the turn or something, you know.
Yeah, and Marco's very able to do it.
Marco calls 2,000.
With middle pair.
I'm surprised he calls, to be honest.
Wow.
Suited Dan all in.
And then Dan.
Why would he do that? I
don't know,
There's
it's-
so much value there. A check there.
It's a miracle card.
Yeah.
He's never getting called by anything that... he's never...
He may get called with a king-queen or an ace-king here, so he could be hoping that Marco has something big like that.
Yeah, but blind versus blind.
Marco
has a small
folds.
chance, especially when you limp in.
See, when that 4 hits, you check there, I think, and show weakness and give him a chance.
I mean, he can even bet.
Yeah, or
He took the lead. He took the aggression by raising, so he could have bet he could even bet like a min bet and hope that Marco does something frisky and still get value.
Button is
for
on
his hand.
Suited Dan.
yeah, that's about the 4th time tonight he's overbet, I think, and lost himself some value.
I think we should see some action here.
Yeah.
Raised to 5,000 by Suited Dan.
See anything Mark may move all in here.
Mark folds King Queen.
Let's
Nice
go.
fold. Nice
I
fold.
think Dan bet really.
Suited Dan chose jacks.
What are the blinds?
Blinds are 5 and
500.
1,000.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a big raise. 5 times a blind.
He did, however, make 1,500 from it.
We may see Mark move in here.
It's
What's
possible.
his?
I mean, I still think he has enough chips
Yeah, he's got
to
enough to raise.
raise fold.
Seems
Mark
like
has
a
about 15,000 and Dan has
$3,500 play.
just over.
Raised to 3,000 by Mark. Suited folds.
Shows his
I didn't think Mark had quite that much. I thought he was
Looks
like
like
10.
Marco has about 22.6 maybe.
Marco has 16,000. Mark has right around 13. Dan has just under 20.
No, 20, 15, 16.
How much?
20,000 for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just over
Thank you.
20.
Give me some respect.
So fairly close chip stacks, actually.
Next shot, Mark.
It's a 3-pony race.
Are they all about even?
Dan's up.
Dan with a slight chip lead.
About,
Suited calls.
Dan's up about 4 on Marco and about 7 on Mark.
Raise 3.
3,000 more?
Marco no longer speaking until his head's up.
Marco adding 3,000. Suited Dan calls.
Check.
Suited Dan flopping 2 pair again.
It's natural for.
Marco with a gutter ball.
5,000 bet by Marco.
And he moves all in.
Suited Dan all in.
I think Dan.
I think he's just trying to wear Marco down where Marco's going to get sick of it and call him finally.
Marco folds.
it's possible. I just feel like he's missing out on so much value in this tournament
A lot
today.
of value. I mean, however, if Marco does get that gutter ball 9, it's just disaster.
I don't know what goes on there. Take like
It is, but I feel like that's.
And I think Marco bet out 5.
Sometimes that's a
first
chance you
flop,
just got
so
to take, though.
It's this is my pot and I want it now type move.
We saw it several times last week.
11 minutes, 30 seconds left in the blinds.
no Jack 6, huh?
Suited folds.
See what Marco does with 3-8 here. Gives a walk.
Mark gets a walk. Marco to act first. Folds.
See if Mark raises this.
Mark calls. Suited checks his option.
Oh,
Dan
Man,
has
it's,
a knack for flopping two pair today.
let's just hope he doesn't jam this time.
2,000.
Suited bets 2,000.
I don't think he's
I
gonna
would
get
I would I
caught.
would be curious to find out
Train.
what made him just bet normal there instead of his usual trend. Like what enticed him to make a value on that one compared to
Most of the huge bets he's made have been against Marco.
so maybe he's trying to
That's what
he's trying
I'm
to get
thinking.
on some level war and
Mark,
hi.
Mark to act first.
Hi everybody at home.
See Bobby enjoying the back room with us here.
Yeah.
Bobby likes attention.
That's
You,
what
you're
she
just
said.
figuring that out, Train?
Yeah.
What did Train say? I'm beautiful.
No, he said you like attention.
Oh, same difference.
Suited calls from the small blind. Marco checks his option. Suited fold or checks. Both players check.
And suited does not want
Oh, this is dangerous.
Suited bet 2,000. Marco all in without a word.
If that's what you call it.
See, that's
But quite a show.
It was, and he left his shirt on.
that's awesome.
Suited to act first.
I like that. I thought it was gonna be kind of he like made himself have to call there after doing all those shoves and then Marco shoves on him. That would have been exciting.
Action on Suited Dan.
Marco with the ace here.
Suited folds.
For some reason, I feel like he's gonna limp in.
He hasn't done that too much. Oh, he did.
Well, I just remember earlier in the game he limped in on me with a ace rag type hand,
He did
almost
it
like
one-
trying to trap.
Yeah, he
Marco
did it
checks.
one other time with the big ace.
Both players check.
I don't mind it sometimes. You get flops like this, and
Right.
Marco checks. Both players
it's
check.
really disguised, but
Marco
checking all the way
checks.
down. Needs a pair. That's
Ace takes it.
pretty standard.
Marco mixing it up a little bit now, though. Earlier, if he flopped top pair, he was getting it in there or betting.
Yeah. Well, I think it's now just the chips are more valuable, and you can't really afford to have a mess up.
Let's see. Mark with ace queen here. He should raise and take this down. Dan likes to defend, but king two offsuit.
Mark raises to 3,000.
King two offsuit's usually
Suited
not
fold.
one of the hands you can call.
You never know, man.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know.
Might be in his range.
I said usually.
He may get frisky. He might.
First act is Mark.
I must say, out of the four gentlemen sitting there, Train is probably one of the prettiest.
Let's not
Prettiest people I've
let's not
seen
make
in
our
a-
dealer's head any bigger than it already is.
Thanks, Bob.
Let's see. Mark with pocket fives on the button. And with queen eight.
Raised to
Marco with
3,500 by
3-8.
Mark.
That should be all there is here.
Everybody folds.
Harmonizing now.
Oh, yeah, but it was, ironically, you and Paul Bob. Did say that. Microphone's good.
It's because we think alike.
Unfortunately.
Don't say that.
We may see some action here between Mark and Marco.
Marco's
Suited
been,
Dan
he's
folds.
been just calling some hands here. Yeah, looks like he's going to raise it up.
Raised to 4,000 by Marco.
Mark protecting his cards.
I don't think he's going to call. Yeah, I just I don't think he's got quite enough chips to be defending that hand.
One player per hand, please.
Hands over, sir.
If he had a few more chips, I'm fairly certain.
Button on Marco. Marco to act first.
Marco with some words. It's
Dan
unusual.
is just kind of sitting back waiting for these two to make a mistake.
Or flop 2 pair again.
Yeah, or wait until he pops 2 pair to jam.
So one of the
Marco
one of the
folds.
And he's going to get a walk
Mark
here.
gets a walk.
Gross.
Dan walks with a good buddy.
10-4.
But I have some training.
10-4
4
opposite.
times in the past. 5 minutes.
I wouldn't mind Mark starting to raise a few of those small blind hands there against Dan.
I think you should.
I'd like to see a lot more button raises from each player. However, to each their own.
Yeah, I mean,
Lean
with it being
for-
3-handed, I
Mark
mean,
folds.
their hand values
Suited
are going
calls.
up huge.
Marco
Like, this
checks.
should not be a limp pot right here.
This is where Mark did a real good job last week when it got to 3-handed. He
Yeah.
abused and just took over.
Suited Dan flops 310.
Please don't jam.
Suited bets 2,500.
That's fine, I guess. That's
Marco folds.
a little much. He didn't bet the flop, did he?
No, he checked.
Mm.
He tried to get the check raise in.
Like to wish everyone good luck from Lehigh Safety Shoes. You can't lose with Lehigh Safety Shoes.
Do you see the year on that thing?
Since I'm 3/4 blind, I'm going to say no, sir.
Good game, gentlemen, no matter what happens, by the way.
I think we'll see a raise here out of Dan.
Suited raises to 3,500. Marco and Mark fold.
Sooner or later, we're going to get 2 hands together here.
I have a feeling it's coming. I'm ready for the cooler. I just want to see the pain. Punish them.
Action on Marco.
This could, in fact, be one of those hands. We see Marco being aggressive.
Marco raises to 3,500.
Mark with ace-8. Suited Dan with 6s. Could this be it?
I'd like to see all 3 players get it all in here.
That would be amazing.
And then
Mark Cutrufella all in.
Although I doubt.
would love to see Dan.
That's
with his
not an
6s.
easy call with 6s, yeah.
Suited Dan folds.
Especially with a
Depends
raise
on the
and a
stack, though.
Well, a raise and a re-raise, though. It's still
Yeah.
a hard call with 6s.
I would probably fold too. I mean,
Marco folds.
smaller checks to battle it out and eliminate each other, I guess.
Marco, what?
Oh, I'd never show it to you, Marco. Nice, Marco.
Would have flop top there.
What's that game? I was jamming too.
Just so everybody knows, Columbus, the bad beat is at 215,000 right now.
How soon are you heading down there? It just got hit up in Cleveland for about 90, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it got hit on
Wednesday.
It was about half an hour before I got there.
Oh.
The first time it hit, super huge. I table changed off of the table that it hit.
I think we
This is a
I
cooler
think we're going to have
fireworks.
an all-in
Marco all
and a
in.
call.
Call by
This is it.
suited
One of
Dan.
the times it hit, you happen to
King Jack
win
versus
that
Ace
hand.
Jack.
That is true. That's true. So
So
I
you
guess
got
I
the
can't
bad
complain.
end of the bad beat.
Yeah,
You got a lot of
can't
If
complain.
there is such a thing.
Ace in the window.
queen makes me nervous.
Yeah, it's looking slim.
Queen
Good
on
game,
queen
Marco.
only.
Very thin, and Marco is
And
eliminated.
Marco is out.
Marco out in third place.
We have Mark and Dan
Well,
for heads up
Do well,
plays.
Grasshopper.
my prediction for the season winner and my prediction for tonight's winner are heads up.
So I'm
Who is your prediction, Mark?
For the season?
Yeah. He's a good player.
I like his style. I really do.
5.
You just like him because he has speed.
Well,
That's 1,000 or 500, 1,000.
Look at that.
And yes, we can say penis on the internet.
I'd like to say goodbye to Bobby. All right.
Leaving abruptly.
Suited
go
raises
chase
to
that
I thought you were
3,000.
on your way to Columbus.
Mark folds. Action on Mark.
I think the winner of tonight's game will be the new point leader going into next week.
Mark with a great flop.
3,000.
And Dan flops.
Suited Dan bets 3,000.
Dan flops nothing. However, he does turn a pair of sixes.
And Mark just calls.
Check.
I think Dan will just check here.
Dan does check.
Mark bets
And
4,000.
I believe Dan can give this hand away for 4,000.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby Million. One to the shoe.
Bobby trying to get in camera range one more
One
time.
more time on the camera, Bob. Go ahead, walk by one more time. Just so they know what your face looks like.
I think he's getting ready for his wardrobe malfunction.
You'd be in the booth. That's awesome. We can hear everything you say.
Suited Dan with pocket tens. Mark with a suited king.
Suited raises to 4,000.
Have a good night.
Again, king.
And Dan and Mark folds.
Come on, Ray.
Bobby's back.
Slip it with it.
Come on. 4 after.
Came here to give you guys great insight on this game of poker.
Yes. Let us know how it plays out, a
Well-
great one.
It gets a lot easier on this end of it.
Definitely.
Yes, I can't lose when I'm on this side.
I'm a big fan of seeing both players hold cards.
Mark raises to 3,500.
Oh,
A raise
Suited
and a
calls.
call. You just going?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
It's all fun every game for me. So,
Suited checks.
all right.
Suited Dan flops middle pair.
Mark
Mark
flops
bets
bottom
5,000.
pair and bets out. Dan calls.
I check.
Mark has two pair.
Mark turns two pair.
Suited has an open-ended straight. and-
well, this is a saucy hand right here.
Yeah.
Saucy.
Mark all in.
As we saw that. I saw
Suited calls.
And Dan
Suited
makes
Especially
calls.
with
the
that
call.
ace and then just checking it down.
I know. That was well played, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was good.
Ace
I
on
like
the
it.
river.
Yeah,
Ace
Mark
on the river
doubles
for
up.
Mark to double up. It's anybody's race at this point.
Let's get a count when we're done with this hand train.
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Dan has just about 12.
Which should give Mark about 30 or more.
Yeah, it's a good turn.
You got talk about Jack 6.
I was.
Yeah. Don't
I
you do Jack
raised.
6 to double up?
No, I had a problem raised. So it's 30.
Blind are up, guys. It's 6 and 12.
6 and 12.
How long do you have to do this?
like
Suited with 2-6. I think he'll give a walk.
I was there in the front.
There was a couple times I missed jamming on him.
We thought you mixed it up really well. You were catching cards and then playing some stuff and catching and yeah, there was we talked about 2 or 3 times he lost the very minimum and
Mark tack first.
right.
I think Mark moved all in there with his ace.
Mark
What was
playing
the,
big
chip
stack poker.
Mark's up now. What makes it go?
Yeah, at least 3 to 1. I think.
3 to 1?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
About 4 to 1.
4 to 1 now.
Suited act first.
Yeah. It's the button. I feel like Dan's gonna raise.
No, he limps a ton on the button.
That's
And Mark just okay.
Mark raises 4,000 on top.
did you raise?
Yeah. Mark raised it 4,000.
I'm lumping the button. I think I might have just flattered.
No, he didn't show.
Suited folded.
Oh, did he? It's hard to tell. Mark will show quite often.
My turn. Play some hands this way.
Button is on Mark.
He's just playing standard big stack poker, making Dan pick up a hand now.
Yeah. Well, I think with his chip lead, like when Dan limps the button, let him catch something.
Oh,
I know he's not strong. He can shove and then let him.
Market ounces. Did you say
Mark's
all in,
just
Mark?
picking up all the most amazing.
Mark is all in.
Mark
Heads
just
up.
moved all in with 8s.
Suited calls.
And Dan.
Yeah, I
Eight.
knew Dan was going to get tired of it sooner or later and was just going to call with 2 cards.
I'll give me 1 down. I'll give me 1 out.
And that's it for the night. Mark takes it for the 2nd week in a row. Good job, guys.
To thank everybody for tuning in to Chase the Bracelet.
Mark is back-to-back first place.
It's going to be real tight in the point race between Dan and Mark.
Yeah, it's going to be real close to the point.